Peter Dumbreck. Let's take a look at what happened. Look in the background, you will see Dumbreck's Mercedes. Now, Andrew, talk us through what happened here. Well, just in the background of the shot, you'll see it.
It gets very, very light, obviously, and the car, just the air picks the front up. They're an enormously large car. Once it gets airborne, as you can see, it is just like an aeroplane wing. It just flips through the air, and it just amazingly lucky that there wasn't maybe a crowd of spectators. That car hit nothing, did nothing. It was just following another car a couple of lengths away. It was obviously very, very frightening, but we understand that obviously nobody has been very seriously hurt in that accident.
That's right. We are hearing that Peter Dumbreck is basically okay, no serious injuries. That's what we're hearing at the moment. That word has come via Mercedes from various directions, but we are hearing that, so as soon as we get any more news, of course, we will tell you. But that is one of the scariest accidents. It's happened here at Le Mans before. It's not completely unknown to see a car take off. John Nielsen had a huge shunt here some years ago in similar circumstances, and it's something that, as we were talking about earlier on, it is always a possibility to happen. And of course, Mercedes had it happen to them in qualifying and in the warm-up this morning. So Mark Webber suffered it in the earlier stages of this race meeting. Now it's happened to Peter Dumbreck. And Martin Haven is going to be able to give us a little bit more updated information. Down to you, Martin.
We're outside the garage of the number 5 Mercedes. As you can see, all the Mercedes garage doors are down for Mercedes-Benz. The 1999 Le Mans race is over, but the only good news from this story is the official confirmation from Mercedes that Peter Dumbreck is okay. Wolfgang Schattling, the chief of press and PR at Mercedes, confirmed just a moment ago behind the pits here that they have been in contact with the rescue crews, and Peter Dumbreck, the driver of the number 5 Mercedes, is okay. We will try and bring you as much information as we can as soon as we can, but for Mercedes at least, this is the end of the race.
Thank you very much, Martin, and of course there's no way that Mercedes are going to continue after that. And when you look back at their decision this morning, they had to decide whether to start this race with the 2 remaining cars. They'd had 2 flips already through qualifying, and then the second this morning in the warm-up for Mark Webber. They put some new front fins on the cars, some little front wings. They decided that that would make the cars safe. Obviously now that decision looks to have been wrong, thankfully without any tragic consequences. A very, very scary accident, as I say, and it's just great news that we're hearing that Peter Dumbreck is okay. Let's just take another look at exactly what happened. Now, talk us through what area of the circuit this is we're looking at, Andrew.
Well, it's coming up to Indianapolis after the Mulsanne. The track is very narrow. Peter wouldn't have much choice, as in like he has to follow the car in front. You just can't get clean air. And it just slightly drops down, as you can see behind there. And as the car obviously just went light, it was just too light on the front, and the air got under the front. And as we said, it is obviously a wrong decision. The car has been obviously dangerous, and it was just pure luck that that car didn't land in the crowd, and obviously with Peter we're absolutely delighted that the information we're getting is that, but it was a very frightening incident at obviously very high speed.
And for Mercedes, I mean, what must they be thinking after seeing that? They can't believe it. They've spent months and months of testing to get to Le Mans with a chance of winning it. They've been running competitively through this afternoon. They've got a team of drivers. They had 9 drivers lined up to compete at the top level here in the Le Mans 24-hour race, and the whole thing has gone disastrously wrong. Just thankfully, neither driver that have been involved in these incidents have been injured, and no one else either, which is remarkable in itself. But just look at the height that car got. It's as high as the bridge there before it comes back down. Of course, the camera gives it a slightly strange angle, perhaps, looking at that, but it was very, very high, and then down into the trees when it landed. And really very nasty indeed. The initial marshals got there very quickly, I'm glad to say, but obviously they weren't expecting to see something like that. And there is the view from the helicopter overhead with the remnants of that Mercedes CLR.
I mean, luckily one can see that it obviously used up most of its force, most of the momentum when it sort of boomeranged through the air, and it seemed to actually come slightly back because the car isn't spread all over the place, which again is very, very fortunate. And just the distance away from the track that car is already, even though it used up so much force flying through the air or flipping through the air, it's just an awesome and a very frightening sight.
It's high speed down there, isn't it? It's getting on for 200 miles an hour. It's one of the faster sections of the track again.
Well, another thing, you know, people talk about is if the Armco is high enough. Well, I mean, you can see in a situation like that, if a car's airborne, you know, how many layers of Armco would you need to keep a car in like that? It's when they are airborne, they are very frightening.
That's right, yes. You'd need Armco and catch fencing so high it would just be unfeasible. But you can see the stretcher is there to take Peter Dumbreck away. Obviously, there may be, we're not have the full story yet, but what we are hearing is he's not seriously injured. Obviously, they will be very, very careful with him, though. He has suffered a huge flip in the air and a heavy landing as well. And so they will be taking every precaution necessary. Whenever there's a heavy shunt like this, the neck is obviously very susceptible to injury, and they won't want to move him unnecessarily. But the medical crew's down there doing a fine job, and well, we just, as you say, Andrew, got to be so thankful that it happened on that particular part of the track.
Well, you know, when you see how far in that, or should I say how far out from the circuit it is, you know, there are a lot of areas here where a tremendous amount of spectators obviously are, and as you can see, that's fortunate that is an area where there are no spectators at all, and all marshals for that matter at that particular point. So, you know, unfortunately, it's a very tragic situation for Mercedes, but my goodness me, it could have been so much worse.
Well, of course, Mercedes are so sensitive about incidents like this. It all goes back to 1955, when there was the most horrific accident here at Le Mans, which killed dozens of spectators, and that incident actually put Mercedes out of motorsport for many, many, many years. They withdrew completely from motorsport, and so the company as a whole is extremely sensitive about the safety issue in motorsport, and this is just this is awful for the company.
Well, it is, and it also is one of the points that we made earlier, the fact that we really felt that Mercedes had said that the car was safe, and that we were absolutely sure that they would only take that decision when they were convinced that the car was safe. I am not saying, of course, that they weren't convinced, but you know, it now shows the car wasn't safe. The car hadn't been safe. It had already had 2 very big accidents, and it was obviously, I'm afraid, the wrong decision. And my goodness, thank goodness it's only ended like that.
That's right, and there is Peter Dumbreck being stretched away. But as I say, we have heard that there are no serious injuries. They will be taking every precaution with
Absolutely,
him.
yes. I mean, he'll obviously be fully in a neck brace and a back brace and everything else to have all the correct checkups, but that's the information we have. But of course, that's absolutely standard that immediately the driver would be in totally, shall we say, embraced to make sure that if there is any damage, and also, of course, the shock aspect of it. So all this would be at least precautionary, as frightening as it may look.
Well, this was Peter Dumbreck's first visit here to the Le Mans circuit. He's actually been going extremely well in the Japanese series in Formula Nippon this year. Now, Andrew, you have a very great involvement with motorsports in Japan. You've raced there many years yourself. Peter Dumbreck's impressing quite a few people out there.
Yeah, he's been doing a fantastic job. He's totally dominant in Formula 3 over there last year, and this year in Formula 3000, what they call Formula Nippon now. He actually in the last race he had claimed pole position and had a very fine second. So you know, he is a good driver making a mark over there, and you know, thank goodness by the looks of things he'll be able to go on. And obviously that reflected in why Mercedes had got him on the squad of drivers, and I'm sure he's got a very bright future.
Well, he's driven for Paul Stewart Racing in the past. He was the 1996 Formula Vauxhall champion in the UK. Before that, he was the Formula Vauxhall Junior champion in 1994. He's another of these rapid Scots. Scotland seem to breed these fast racing drivers, the likes of David Coulthard and Dario Franchitti. Peter Dumbreck, the latest in the line of fast racing drivers in recent times, after the likes of Jackie Stewart and Jim Clark through the 60s and into the 70s. And Dumbreck just as much a shining light as those other drivers, and with a great future ahead of him. And it was a great opportunity, of course, to get signed up by Mercedes, to have this opportunity to drive for one of the most important teams in motorsport. But, well, nobody, of course, could have imagined that something like this could possibly have occurred, and it's going to take a little while to get all that sorted out.
And also, I mean, we talk about, obviously, you know, his bright future, and people probably think it sounds a bit flippant when there's a car in that situation, but, you know, you do have accidents, and as a racing driver, you do accept that. Obviously, this looked a particularly horrendous one. I don't know, from a driver's point of view, I'm sure it was very unpleasant. But I very much doubt that it will affect him in any long-term view of his motor racing. Like I said, it is always very frightening, but I would believe, as long as the information we're getting is correct, that he's not badly hurt or hurt, that he really will carry on to be a great driver.
Well, I hope so. Let's hope that it's not too long before he gets back out in the car. Let's, while this is going on, while we still see the pictures, let's quickly update you on what's been actually going on in the race. It's easy to lose track that we've still got a race going on here, and there have been other dramas here, particularly for another British driver, Martin Brundle. They've had all sorts of troubles with that number 1 Toyota, and it's back in the garage again as I speak. They've had some sort of hydraulic problem. There was oil all over the place. It's back in the garage. It does look as though Brundle's challenge is over, and after the break, we'll update you with the positions as they stand.